Hi trauma healers. In today's video, what we're going to talk about is how to turn post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth. Before we get into the topic, a little bit about my background. Those of you who've been following me know I had a pretty traumatic childhood, a lot of abuse to overcome, a lot of trauma to heal, and over the last 9 years I've learned ways to heal and release trauma, and that's what these videos are about, to help you speed up time. So let's get into today's video. How do we turn post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth? First, let's talk about what not to do. They've done studies, and looking back at what happened to you that traumatized you, if you look at it in a negative way, for example, and look, life is incredibly unfair, but if you look at it as what happened to me was unfair, it was unjustified, it was totally wrong. All those things are 100% true, but if you look at it that way, you're just magnifying, unfortunately, you're magnifying the PTSD sometimes that you actually suffer from. So let me give you a story to kind of bring home this point. So when my daughter was born, obviously she was an innocent baby, and as she became a toddler, she was still innocent, but she was naughty. She would break things, spill things, drop things, wrecked my couch, wrecked several possessions of mine. But still, she was so sweet and so innocent. And what that did, ironically, even though at that point I hadn't completely forgiven my father for childhood abuse issues, I was working on it, and I felt I was like 70% of the way there. But then seeing my daughter and how innocent she was, and then thinking back to my childhood and how abusive my dad was to me, flying off the handle, screaming if I spilled something, saying horrible negative things to me like I'm worthless, I always do this, I never do that. Having those memories and then seeing my daughter and seeing how I would never do that to her, it infuriated me, because it made me feel that what my dad did was totally unjustified, because I was just an innocent little child, just like my daughter was. And I just couldn't understand how he could be so abusive and nasty to me. And the resentment, the rage, ironically made my generalized anxiety the main symptom of complex PTSD that I've experienced. It made it much, much worse. Like, my anxiety was through the roof, my mood was always bad. And so the point is that if you look at something being unfair or unjustified, even if it is, ironically, it doesn't help you. It makes what you've experienced even worse. So what's better to do is to look back at what happened and try and take whatever positive that you can out of that. So let me give you an example. You could say, you know what? Because I went through this horrific experience, it makes me much more compassionate to other people and their challenges and the traumas they went through. It makes me a much more compassionate and understanding person. What else? Well, because of this trauma, I've had to learn of ways to heal. I've had to introduce routines and habits into my life that make my life better. For example, meditation, visualization, journaling. All of these things make your overall life better. And when life's inevitable challenges do come up, you have better tools to deal with those issues than most people who've actually never been traumatized. What else? How's another way to look at the trauma that you've experienced in a positive way? Well, once you learn these things, you can actually figure out ways to help other people. So there'll be a purpose to what happened to you. It won't just be for you to suffer, it'll be for you to help other people reduce their suffering. So I know it's a challenge and it's actually a practice, but when you look back at the traumas in your life, always look to reframe them and see what's the positive that you could get from this situation? Sometimes the positive is just knowing like, hey, there's certain people I should avoid. There's certain situations I should avoid. There's certain things that I could handle better than the way the other person handled the situation. So that's post-traumatic growth. That means that even though something bad happened to you, you ultimately have grown from it and your life will be better because of it. Plus, you'll be able to potentially help others. So give it a shot, and please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, love you all.